There it is. Welcome to Out of Home Insider. Today's episode is brought to you by LED Truck Media. LED Truck Media specializes in hyper-local, street-level campaigns that get your message in front of the right people. Whether your campaign is a day or 1 month, with nationwide coverage, your campaign can be live in any major market within 24 hours. If you want to reach your perfect audience in a truly engaging way, visit ledtruckmedia.com. LED Truck Media, out-of-home advertising 2.0. Thanks again for making today's show possible. All right, without further ado, let's meet today's guest. Today's guest is Sam Kwanfar. Sam is the CEO of Milk Money, the marketplace that makes buying out of home like shopping on Amazon for some of the world's biggest brands. An outsider to out of home, Sam and his team represent a who's who of not only top musical talent, but the record labels and personal brands. Bring a unique vibe to the most powerful medium in the world with their award-winning campaigns. From Jay-Z and Rock Nation to Travis Scott and Miley Cyrus, Milk Money is attracting a whole new clientele to out of home with a mobile app that offers last-minute deals on premium inventory. Adweek covered the most recent campaign, a campaign for Bumble that involved more than 20 vendors in 15 cities and is being regarded as one of the biggest wins of the year for out of home, and a story we'll unpack here today for some of the key lessons that we can all learn from. Sam, thanks for being here.
Of course, man. That was quite an intro.
I think that everybody deserves a great intro. So that's it. That's the episode, folks. Thanks for coming out.
I'll be back. Let me know when I can come back again.
Well, listen, everyone's a buzz and about the Bumble campaign, and no one comes here for the jokes. So why don't we start there, man? Because that was a pretty amazing campaign, and I'm going to bring some pictures up on the screen here. But talk to me about how that came together.
Wow, you're fully prepared. Yeah, I mean, the Bumble one, it's been kind of like a work in progress. We've actually been working with Bumble for about 4 years now. They've had, a bunch of different agencies over the last few years that they've worked with, but they've always leaned on us for some of their remnant buys. And then this time around, I believe about a year ago, they let all their agencies go and decided to do most of their planning and buying in-house. And they approached us and they said they got an upcoming campaign and it was going to be their biggest to date. And they wanted to basically work with Milk Money and give us a shot to handle the big campaign. So they came through and, the rest is history.
Yeah, and talk to me, how did it come through? Was it traditional RFP process? How'd you guys get a seat at the table?
Yeah, no, it's not really, we didn't really have like much of an RFP. I know they were considering a bunch of different traditional agencies for this, but ultimately because of the ease of use of the platform and actually their timing happened to be within 2 weeks of their start date. So it fit perfectly in our remnant window anyway. So, they had history of working with us and they were familiar with the platform and they knew that we had comprehensive coverage for that short flight that they were looking for. So they came through, they had access to the platform, they went through and put their own settings in and they knew what areas they wanted to be in. The vendors didn't really matter so much. They just knew that they wanted very unique assets. And the self-serve platform really does that. It allows them to pick their markets. It allows them to pick their cost, their frequency. It allows them to pick different types of formats that they're interested in. And to be honest, they kind of put their own plan together, utilizing the system. And we definitely loaned our support and our assistance and our strategy team, but they did most of the heavy lifting themselves.
And that's pretty amazing. It's not an uncommon conversation. In fact, I had a conversation with an advertiser earlier in the year who was going through sort of the same thing of, hey, we've had an agency for a long time. We felt like we were missing the market of where we really wanted to be. So we brought it in-house, and that's what we found is that we were not seeing specific types of inventory or not being shown certain markets. What was the feedback like for Bumble now taking this campaign on internally in terms of just the experience overall? Was it, did they buy differently?
I think most tech brands, a lot of D2C brands, these guys already know their audience. I mean, they know it better than anyone else. And most brands go to agencies so they can help them figure out who their demo is. But to tech companies, they already got that nailed down. So really for them, it becomes a matter of getting the avails and showing them the inventory. And then they can do the planning themselves. right? They know the zip codes they want to be in. They know their target demo. As long as there's a system that allows them to filter for that, you know, it's a pretty self-serve platform, and it's really meant for people that are pretty intuitive and have already the big data at their fingertips.
So maybe let's talk about that for a second, because
Sure.
you know, even admittedly myself, before we really started to talk, I wasn't sure what Milk Money did or did differently.
Yeah.
How is Milk Money different than maybe some of the other you know,
Sure.
tech companies that we talk about in Out of Home?
You know, I think the biggest thing is that we're not an agency. You know, I think the industry qualifies anybody who's a buyer as an agency, and they kind of
Hmm.
like pigeonhole all of us together, and anyone who has a technology of sorts to be a platform. We really believe ourselves to be a true marketplace. You know, no different than like an Airbnb, right? The point for us is that we're giving all vendors, big and small, right, an opportunity to have a seat at the table. You know, they're not going to be limited by their sales force. They're not going to be limited by their inventory and or agency reach, right? So any advertiser that wants to come to Milk Money can search freely. They'll have access to anything that's available. And through pretty easy filters, they'll be able to narrow down the inventory to fit their criteria. Um, we're the only platform, if you will, right, that's mobile enabled, right, so that people can actually do their entire plan, their buy end to end, from viewing it, planning it, buying it, and then tracking it end to end all the way to POP through their mobile phone. And that makes it really, really easy. And by not having to pull RFPs and already having inventory turned on by vendors in this system, very similar to like someone who's got a house and they want to make it available on Airbnb, they just turn
Right.
on the dates that it's available. They make it available to us for whatever the length of time those gaps are. And a client can go in there at their own discretion, pick their dates, pick their time, and book the unit. Right? They put in a shopping cart and they exit. It contracts it. Then they upload their creative. The creative gets sent to the vendor automatically. Vendor approves it. It then goes to one of a number of printers that we have in our network. Usually it farms it out to the closest printer, closest to the end
Wow.
delivery location. That way we cut down on time, delivery time, and cost. And it ultimately gets installed a lot faster because we're working with such short time periods. And the client gets to track the whole thing. No different than like Postmates or Uber Eats, where you can track your driver's journey. So you're like, where's the driver? It's the same thing. We never want them to ask the question of where am I in the process? You know, when is it going to get installed? You know, has it even gone to the printer yet? Has it been installed? All of that's been alleviated, and not just for the client, but also for the vendors involved. So the printer, the media owner, the installer, and ultimately a photographer who's going to shoot the POP and make it available for the client. So that's pretty much like what Milk Money does. It's an end-to-end solution. It's a marketplace. And the beauty about the marketplace is, you know, and what really, you know, is significant for me and from, I would think most of the industry, is that it gives the independent guys an opportunity to play in the space equivalent to all the big guys, right? So they don't get lost. They don't get lost in the shuffle.
Right. So let's talk about that a second. Right. So the Bumble campaign was obviously big. If you had to give a split, how much of that ended up going to independents?
Oh, I would say like at least 95% of it.
That's significant.
Yeah, at least 95% of it. And again, we didn't choose the inventory. So they, you know, they went through, they picked what they wanted. They were brand agnostic. I mean, it didn't really make a difference. They weren't playing favorites to anyone. And a lot of the little guys got to play, you know, I mean, little guys like ICU Art and City Outdoor and, you know, Rolling Ads and Skyline and Scene, you know, all these guys got a piece of it. And then you got like the mid-sized guys like Big and New Tradition and Capital. They got, you know, their fair share of it. And then Outfront got a little bit, but they didn't pick anything from like JC2Co. They didn't pick anything from Clear Channel.
Wow.
They didn't pick anything from Lamar. You know, which again, not surprisingly, right? And it wasn't because they didn't have great inventory in the locations. but they were looking for unique assets.
Right.
So they didn't really go for the 14 by 48s, right? They went for the wallscapes, they went for the murals, they went for transit, they went for unique faces, things that look different and you just pulled it up on your screen, but everything looked completely unique and different. So the whole idea was that, every person on the app is different, right? Everyone's got their own vibe. And they wanted to, showcase the uniqueness of their campaign with unique assets.
Right. It's clever copy. It's a brilliant use of each one of those locations. And to hear like the 95% of it going to independents and really understand the significance around that in a time where the industry has been hit so hard.
Yeah.
And some of these smaller guys don't have a sales team, or maybe they had one or two salespeople, and
Sure.
maybe they're down to
They're running
one
super
now.
lean.
So
super
lean. And just trying to get through to next month, like, hey, high five, we made it to the first again. That really matters. How do you see Milk Money fitting into the ecosystem overall, with agencies, with the smaller independents? How does it all work together in your mind?
Yeah, I mean, look, since day one, we knew that we were just going to be a piece of the pie.
Yeah.
Right. There's no one person or one part of the pie that's going to really dominate more than anyone else. There's going to be room for everybody, right? You're going to have your traditional agency buyers, the brands that use agencies for planning and strategy and creative, and potentially be buying other sorts of media, and they're really reliant on them, and that's great, right? Then you're going to have people that are going to look to do things on their own and lean on marketplaces like ours to be able to kind of like have a self-serve system. And then some, of that will also be looking for remnant or incremental or short flights. And there's a few different platforms that offer a variation of sorts that they can choose from. And an offshoot of that will also be digital programmatic, which a different subset will participate in. And the reality is, we as a whole, as a community, have to elevate out of home, right, in its entirety.
Amen.
And before we got in, it was either you went vendor direct or you went through an agency, and there really wasn't room for new players, right? And historically, most of the ad buys were happening from like the same typical advertisers that just the money would switch from this agency to another agency over time. Like every few years, they'd fall under another arm. And it was like really the same dollars going back and forth. And the main thing was that, the barrier of entry was really difficult. People didn't know who the vendors were. They didn't know how to access these people. They didn't want to wait, weeks on end for an RFP. The pricing in some cases were really high. They didn't want to buy for weeks on end. They wanted to be able to maybe buy for a few days or a week or two, right? And also, it wasn't easy to share the opportunities internally, right? You had to have like multiple spreadsheets from multiple vendors with multiple PDFs. And then, you have to compile them together in some form of a proposal, and then share it internally, and then look at a spreadsheet, and then look at a PowerPoint and try to like make sense of it. Whereas with ours, it's no different than any other shopping cart experience, right? You just pick all the units that you like. You can see it on a map. You add it into the shopping cart. We've got an impression calculator. Thanks to Geopath, we're going to have accurate impression counts. We've got a CPM calculator, although I don't really advocate for CPM for out of home. Some clients really like that, and that's just what they're used to doing. So they like to have the CPM calculator. Obviously, you have your totals. You can filter by market and see how much of the market you're saturating. And then we've got, some of the other benefits too, like, being able to look at, how much of the market you're saturating with the units that you've picked, reach and frequency and things like that. And then ultimately they put a great plan together and they check out. And the other great thing too is, like, we all know, like, out of home was limited to like a 9 to 5 for the most part.
Sure.
Right. And sometimes even less than that, because you've got people, playing golf and whining and dining and networking and doing what they do to get the business, right? So everyone's not available at the time that people need them. But with Milk Money's app, you've got 24/7, 365 access. And we're finding, and not surprisingly, a lot of our clients do their planning after hours, right? They do it at night.
Interesting.
They do it, they do it on their phone. They do it on the weekends. They do it during times where most out-of-home people may not be available,
Right.
right?
And they're able to control the experience, right? They don't have to call or send
They
an
don't have to depend
email
on
and
anybody.
wait
Yeah,
and then maybe I'll get it later. And right, I
sure,
could sit down with a glass of wine or a beer and I've got some free time
totally.
now. Kids are in bed. Let me just play with this and
Yep.
see what it looks like, right? And if they
I
can
mean,
see it, it's real.
look at Miley Cyrus. When we did Miley's global campaign for her last campaign that we did, she did the entire by herself on her phone from a tour bus.
Wow.
So she had never bought out of home before, and she was on her tour bus in between cities, and she sat down and she picked the one she wanted. She put it in her cart. Her team got to sign off on it. And they verified what they wanted, and they ultimately just checked out, and that was it. And the campaign went live, and that was a global campaign. I mean, we had stuff across the United States, and then we had some stuff in Europe because she was in traveling to Europe and wanted to have her creative up there while she was doing some shows. And it was as easy as that, and we won an award for that campaign, which was pretty cool. And in terms of like attribution too, that particular campaign had a mobile number that people would either text or call. So we were able to quantify how effective out of home was. And we had over 1 million phone calls and text messages in less than a
Wow.
week. In a week.
Wow.
In a
Wow.
week. So, I mean, there's a power of celebrity there, obviously,
Sure. Sure.
but it also just shows that, you
It
have a very
works.
clear call to action. You buy at the right places, and
Yeah.
you're gonna, out of home works. It's super effective.
And I mean, I think that's the hot take of the year. Miley Cyrus can buy out of home from her phone
Sure,
on a tour bus. So,
sure,
how many other Miley Cyruses are out there? How many, like, in terms of new business? A lot of the brands that I see associated with Milk Money were not always traditional out of home players.
sure.
Are you seeing a lot of new entry?
As of last month, about 84% of Milk Money's customers had never bought out of home before.
Wow. So it's a
So
net
that's a
positive.
So that's a pretty staggering number. I mean, we've got some of the usual suspects. We'll have like a Spotify and a Postmates and Casper, and we just recently did a campaign for YouTube and Netflix. So we're getting some of the regular usual suspects, but a majority of our clients are newcomers to this space, and they're super excited. Most of them had expressed that they've been looking and eyeing out of home for quite some time, but they either tried to give it a run before and it was just too difficult or too time consuming, or they just didn't know how to do it. It wasn't, it was too difficult of a bet, right, to gamble that much money, and or they just never thought they had enough money to try it in the first place. And
Yeah,
with Milk
that's
Money,
a common theme. I hear that a lot. Oh, I thought it was more expensive.
yeah, I mean, look, it is pretty expensive,
Sure, relative.
but
Yeah,
it's relative, right? I mean, you've got the power of out of home extends beyond a little square, a little box on your phone. I mean,
right.
it's larger than life. It's always on. I mean, when most of our clients happen to be millennials, so the IRL experience is like a big turn on for them. They like to know that they can actually go see the billboard, take a picture in front of it. A majority of our clients use it as content for social.
Smart.
So we end up seeing a lot of our creative actually live online. And that's great. Like, it's super shareable. So, people take advantage of that. I mean, I don't know if you remember, like, we did our buy for Rihanna for Fenty
I
earlier in
think.
the year.
See, I pulled up two here. I pulled up the Kendrick Lamar and Jay Z. You guys did something big with Jay Z and Beyonce, right?
We did we did a pretty cool campaign for their
Yeah, that one jumped out to me.
yeah,
Those are people that everybody knows. Talk to me about, like, this is significant for out of home in a lot of ways.
sure.
Not only is it a big campaign, right, and that's great, but these are household names. These are people that transcend pop culture. So, how important is this to Out of Home to have names like
Well, I'll
this?
tell you, this buy in particular was actually pretty exciting because we got the request from Jay on Sunday, and we had them live on over 500 digital units on Monday.
Wow.
And this is before programmatic. So there was no digital programmatic platform used on this. And we literally helped them buy 500 units in 24 hours. And I mean, this is the shocking part, but their creative team literally turned around all the different creative assets in a day. And it went live. So yeah, that one's pretty exciting. And also from what I'm told, it broke a world's record for largest Times Square takeover.
No kidding.
In the history of Out of Home in Times Square. So I don't know if we've been dethroned since last year, but
we got to start the Guinness Book of Out of Home records.
Yeah, that would be
you heard
great.
it here. You heard it here first.
If you can get them out there to actually verify that and get us some form of a plaque, it would be great.
First round's on me.
Send that over to the Rock Nation office. Yeah, for sure.
All right. So I mean, that you bought a ton of screens. Programmatic wasn't a thing. Like, you're not from Out of Home. But how did Milk Money come to be? Like, was it out of a need? Did you see an opportunity? What's the origin story? Because I think that's a question on everyone's mind.
The story has not been told.
The story has not been told. And I think it's on everyone's. But like, I was texting a colleague today, and she's like, "Who is this Milk Money?" Like, people are genuinely interested. You're
getting this out of me.
Let's do it.
Yeah. No. So it was actually birthed out of a mistake, to be entirely honest with you. So prior to Milk Money, I ran an entertainment marketing agency for a decade called House of Hype. And during that time, several of our clients, when we did activations, were asking about Out of Home. And a few times I just remember like trying to figure it out, trying to like Google who has billboards and make some phone calls. And it was like a real pain point trying to figure it out. And one of the campaigns that we had was actually, we were doing a BET party for Puff Daddy, for Puff.
Oh, yep.
And he wanted to have a billboard near the event. And we finally ended up getting one on Sunset. It was in Sunset Plaza. So we ended up getting one, but it was like a nightmare to do it. And, I kind of like always in the back of my mind was like, this is like so awesome, right? Seeing the billboard live, but it was just such a pain to get through it. So tucked away in the back of my mind, I always had like this desire to crack that nut, right? Like to figure out how do we do that. And then a few years into the House of Hype history, as an agency, I got tired of running an agency. And people would come to us, brands would come to us constantly for our network, and they wanted to get, placed in a music video or in a movie or a TV show. And we're constantly doing product placement. And we had the connections, with the industry insiders to be able to place them. And it just became overwhelming. There was just too many opportunities, too many missed opportunities. So Milk Money 1.0 was actually a marketplace for product placement and sponsorship opportunities.
Interesting.
So really it took what we did at House of Hype, and we built a website that allowed people to bid to integrate their brand into these key placements. And we had, all the major movie studios and TV networks and record labels, and they were posting their shows and movies, music videos, and brands were bidding on these placements.
Wow. And give me an example, like a placement for
Coke? It could have been like Justin Bieber's music video.
Okay.
Right. And brands would bid to integrate into the video. The problem was dates shift, production schedules shift, treatments change, scenes get cut out, locations change. And sometimes the product no longer fits in the scene, or the talent doesn't want to hold the product any longer. There's a conflict of interest, right? And there was just way too many barriers, right, to get it right.
Got it.
And although a lot of people were excited to bid and get integrated, there was a lot of opportunity for these campaigns to not see the full potential, right? So we started looking for, now that we had amassed all these customers, we had all these brands on the platform, it was like, okay, what other asset, what else could we put on there? What can we list that people would want to buy, right? But we know it's not going to go away, right? Like what's going to be like a placement without there being any compromise. And I thought back to, trying to buy a billboard for my other clients, and how excited the client was ultimately to be able to get like a great deal and see themselves on out of home. So I just reached out to, in my first call was to my friend Conrad. Used to be at Total and now he's at Sumas. And I was like, Conrad, you're in the billboard space, and I've known Conrad for a long time. And I said, what do you have? And he's like, I got a couple boards. I'm like, well, do you have any that could start pretty soon? Because I need something to sell on the platform. And he gave me some assets, and we sold it within an hour.
Wow.
And yeah, I mean, it was that quick. And then I'm like, who else has inventory? And then I called, Lamar, and I spoke to Mike Casota, who's, the manager in the LA market. And I introduced myself, and I was like, hey man, do you have any inventory that can go live like now? And he gave us some inventory. We put it on the platform and it sold. And I was like, wow, I think we hit something. So, it was really birthed out of a mistake, but then eventually we took everything else off the platform. We focused on billboards, and eventually we grew to be more of an out of home marketplace. So it started with bulletins, and then we started layering in, everything else that it is today. And now it's actually expanded beyond the traditional, and we've got non-traditional assets as well. I mean, you could find a blimp on there. You can find sky typing and skywriting, and aerial banners and hand painted murals, and experiential things like food trucks and ice cream trucks, and all sorts of great assets. We're working with this other vendor who's got rooftop advertising that we recently listed.
Oh yeah. They've been on the show.
What?
They've been here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're great guys, man. And
Fly
a lot
by
of
ads.
entrepreneurs in this space. So
yeah.
shout out to those guys. And I'll tell you, I think like the exciting thing for me is that, when you first went on Airbnb, it was like renting an air mattress in someone's living room.
It really was. It was like couch surfing.
And today you can book a castle and an igloo and a boathouse.
The
right?
Ninja Turtles lair.
Huh?
The Ninja Turtles lair.
Ninja Turtle. I haven't seen that, but I got to check it out. But they recently had the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air's house.
Oh, come on. That's so cool.
Yeah, that was last week. So look, the idea for me is the same thing. It doesn't have to be the traditional guys. Anybody who's got any form of out of home that qualifies, they can list it on the marketplace. And the more, we get postings and listings on there, the more advertisers are going to be attracted to the platform. Right now, everything we've done has been word of mouth. So someone got something, they loved it, they told a friend told a friend, they gave it a shot. And it's really been like super organic, which is all you can really ask for at our stage.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we're so excited about that, man. I mean, when we see the faces of our customers, right, when they post something on social, or they email us and tell us like this was a dream come true, or they always wanted to make their mom proud, or their girlfriend jealous, or whatever it was, like the look mom, I made it. Like here
we all have our motivation.
There's nothing better than that. And at the same time, we also help our vendors monetize on lost opportunities. So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, for sure. And in just getting ready for this conversation, talking with some of the independents around the industry, the feedback's been nothing but positive. So clearly you guys are doing a good job. If it sounds like it's a great platform for anyone who's got any sort of out of home advertising
Absolutely.
idea, right? How many different formats do you have, if you had to put a number on it?
Right now, we're probably about 25 to 30 distinguished, formats, but there's variances on
Sure.
those too. But I would say, about 25, which is pretty pretty significant, and growing. So, if you're listening and you've got out of home, hit us up at Milk Money. We'd love to have you on the platform, and be part of our marketplace.
Definitely. How should people get in touch if they want to get their assets?
hello@milkmoney.com.
That's pretty easy. It's
Yeah.
hello at Milk Money. We'll make sure to put it in the show notes, the description below. Sam, what are you most excited about right now?
Scaling. It's exciting every day when, look, COVID was rough for everybody.
Yeah.
Right. Us included. I mean, the first few months was a matter of like, survival, right? We had clients who had booked inventory and they were concerned about their impressions. They were concerned if people were going to see them. They wanted to get out of contracts. They wanted to extend, their start dates. We had a lot of variables. Fortunately, all of our vendors were super supportive. They understand the long-term value of a customer. They understand that, everyone's in this. It's not a unique situation. Everybody's in this, and the only way we're going to win is to work together. And we powered through. I think everyone, for the most part, has survived and is coming out of this thing, and hopefully going to continue to grow. I think for us, the nice thing was that smaller advertisers who needed to keep their doors open, needed to find new channels of, buying local ads, and Milk Money was a great resource. So I think, during COVID, we kind of got to shine. Our value really presented itself to our vendors and proved that there is a need for this. And we're all about like the micro transactions, right? Yeah. So a lot of like little buys add up to a big number. And none of our vendors ever complain about a deal size, right? Like there's nothing too small for them, right?
They're all found money.
They're grateful for any level buy, right? And I think that's like the most rewarding thing for us, is that no one ever complains about why I didn't get more or why someone else got something. Everyone so far has been super supportive. And I love that about this community. I've had other vendors hit me up and be like, wow, that was amazing what you did with Pivot, or that was amazing what you did with Big, or that was amazing what you did with New Tradition. Or that's amazing that you had, that incredible mural that you did with ICU Art. You know what I mean? And it's a really tight community, and I really, really love that. And I think that's been part of like what's allowed the industry to thrive. And I think this is a moment for everybody. And I think ultimately people just need to be open to change, because the change is coming, right? And they need to be open to the idea that advertisers buy differently.
Yeah.
Right. And you can't lock them into buying one way. And if they historically bought one way, today they may shift and want to buy a different way. Which is the thing about us too, is like, we don't force our clients to be AOR. Like that was like a big deal for the industry. It was like, are you their AOR? Are you their AOR? And I'm like, no, and we don't want to be. I don't force my advertiser to only buy from me. If they want to go buy direct, or they want to go buy from an agency, or they want to try something and come back, we're a marketplace. Expedia doesn't tell their customers they only have to buy from Expedia and they can't call Delta or Marriott, right? Or if they went there, they can't come back. You give them the ease of use of platform and they buy how they want. I mean, look, no one tells Netflix what to do, right? No one tells YouTube what to do. And if as a vendor, you want to say, they're only limited to buying from an agency or, whoever they traditionally buy from, then you're going to miss out on the dollars that they're going to spend with us. And if you follow us, then you'll see that they're spending, and we're giving them whatever inventory we have. So I encourage people to look away from AOR, right, and think of it in a grand scale. And if you have inventory, don't let it sit there. Give it to us and give us a shot at trying to get somebody to fill it.
Yeah,
fill it quickly and pay quickly. So
that last piece, maybe say that twice for the people in the back. Pay quickly and pay quickly. Cash flow is king.
Absolutely.
So, hey, speaking of scaling, speaking of community, your team's growing, and you just added some out of homies to the team, right?
We did. We really didn't have anyone from out of home on our team to date. And interesting enough, I didn't really want to lean on anyone from the industry. I really liked the idea of developing and cultivating our own team, right? Without any bias to the industry and how things have been done, because we're doing things differently.
Sure.
So I wanted people with open minds, and I wanted really, really good people, regardless of their walk of life, like where they came from, right? It didn't really matter as long as, they had the qualifications for what it would take to work at Milk Money. And, during the pandemic, we saw a lot of people that had been furloughed and people that had lost their jobs. And we started getting a lot of inquiries, and we had kind of put it out there to the industry, to people that were looking to hire, and we got flooded with resumes. I mean, we got so many talented people that were displaced.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, I was like, this is a great opportunity to give back, and to give some people an opportunity to stay in the industry that they love. We were hiring, some others weren't. So we opened it up and we got some great candidates, and this week alone, we hired 3 people from OMG alone. And they're great candidates, and we're super excited to have them as part of our team. And they're bringing some great value, and hopefully, we'll open our doors to some more people as well. But yeah, I mean, look, if you're looking for a job, reach out to us at work@milkmoney.com.
Gosh,
And
see what making it easy does.
We're open to hearing from everybody. So yeah, we that's kind of like how it happened. And we couldn't be more pleased.
It's exciting. It's been a lot of fun to watch. Sam, if people want to get in touch, follow you, where are you most active? How do people find you?
Probably I'd say like our Instagram, which is just
great follow.
At Milk Money. Super easy handle. And we post a little bit on LinkedIn as well, but most of where we're social is on Instagram. And I'm at Sam K1Far, and you could put that in the spelling of that in, the footer somewhere. People,
I sure will. We'll make it easy.
One, but
that's the theme. Make it easy. Make it easy. And people do more of it.
Yeah. But yeah, we want to hear from everybody. I mean, we love to hear from people, right? We love to work with everybody. So whether you're an independent guy in the middle of the country, or you're a big guy with multiple markets, or you've got some new interesting assets, or you're looking to build out some assets and you want some help, we'd love to hear from you.
Awesome. And that's hello@milkmoney.com. Again, show notes, description below. You'll have everything you need to get in touch. Sam, thanks so much for being here.
I appreciate it. Thanks for the time.
Absolutely. As always, make sure to smash that subscribe button, share it, like it, comments, all that stuff. That's the best way to support the show. And we'll see you guys next time.